Welcome back to a Bevy of Bloods for round 23 of the 2023 season. It's another win, question mark. We let go of another lead almost, but with all the controversy included, we still have the 4 points, and along the results, we are into the finals. So fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially, but hopefully, less biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved Bloods. G'day there, Cygnets and Swanlings. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by the counter-conspiracy, the harbinger of convenient truth, and the closest thing to Kinnear Beatson away from the SCG. Welcome back, Noddy, to the potty, mate.
Thanks, mate. That's like the nicest thing I think you've ever said about me, so I'll take it.
Well deserved. If you all saw what Noddy was all about, he's halfway to a Kinnear Beatson anyway, so we'll get to that later. But look, before we get kicking off, thank you to everyone who's following our stuff. It's much appreciated. The growth of the channel and the growth of the bevy is really good. We much appreciate it. Thank you very much. Continue that. We see it all. It does make a big difference. So support your bevy where you can. Thank you. So let's get stuck into the game, into the score recap. Last Saturday, our Sydney Swans defeated the Adelaide Crows by 1 point. 1 point with a final score of 10-13-73 to 11-8-74. Noddy, straight to you, mate, with all the controversy. What have you got to say about that game?
Oh, mate, look, obviously, initially, jubilation, like, holy hell. We held out, like, so great first half, a reasonable third quarter, and just, like, super stressful fourth quarter. Oh my God, obviously, yes. We'd seen this kind of shit before. You know, we're slipping away, we're getting overrun. It's like the prelim against Collingwood last year and a bunch of games this year. So, you know, it went from feeling really, really good, looking really, really sharp, and just going, oh God, our pressure's good, our effort's good, our intent's high, and then just like almost it all just like coming apart, and the circumstances obviously after the jubilation had died down, knowing that you're looking at the vision of the Keys kick and the non-goal decision, and obviously Swans fans are humans, and we're empathetic. We understand what the Crows fans are going through right now, but I'm sure we'll dig into it along the way in this chat, mate. But the result stands, and we were lucky this time round, right? Swings and roundabouts. Yeah. So that's kind of it for me, mate. I mean, we're into the finals. Unbelievable.
Wow. Unbelievable. We didn't see this coming, did we?
Take that, all of you non-believers, of the VFL media. Take that.
And you know what I love about this? And it just makes me so happy the Cats are out. And all of this chatter about how we were doing badly and how we got crushed from them again in that first game of the season when we played against them. It's all of that's gone. It's been the longest season in my life as far as I'm concerned. And it's all come through, and the Cats are out, and we're locked in. That's amazing, mate.
I mean, it's unreal. The pessimists in most Swans fans, what's pessimist, whatever the word is, but they like to whip us when we're down, and they like to whip us when we're up. So, obviously the circumstances in this game weren't great, because then that's just another reason to attack us. And in our group chat, we're saying, oh, what are they going to take away from us now? You can't wear football boots or something during the game. I don't know, man. It was just crazy, crazy scenes. But yeah, what a way to get in. Then obviously helped by the Eagles beating the Dogs. So I don't think anyone saw that coming.
Which is so poetic, considering that if you were to ask any Swans fan of the last, how have they been wrong so badly in the last, say, 20 years? We're all going to refer back to the 2016 grand final. Yeah. So to see West Coast, our old rivals, and all the fantastic games we had with them, defeat out of absolutely nowhere the old rivals, or the new rivals, I guess, in the Dogs, then everything just kind of comes together and the Cats drop out. Like, basically, Christmas has come incredibly early, and all the gifts that I want to have been gifted to me so far. There's a few more to come, but for now, Santa's come real good. I believe in Santa all over again.
I'll tell you what, I think Simo's done Horse a big favour here, and who knows? Look, just on that, I'll bring it up because you mentioned it. There's talk of swings and roundabouts, and we've been on the harsh end of crappy outcomes before, certainly many times, and 2016 is the biggest one, but higher stakes, I think, and different circumstances. So I don't personally view this win as like levelling out the schmozzle that was the 2016 grand final. It's also Jake Lloyd hitting that the behind the bit of paper or the wasp nest that was on the post that night in I think that was Gather Round, was it? Wherever it was, that's too light. It's too trivial. But I personally, and I brought this up with you, I think I like to view this as there being peace in the world now after the ridiculous Jordan Dawson trade where we received nothing, right?
Yeah.
For the best player in the league. So now, Adelaide, you've got Jordan, we've got the win, not our fault, definitely the AFL's fault while we're at
Absolutely, yes.
Should we go there now, or have we got a section
I would
later
love
on?
to. So I'm going to say my quick piece, and I think even Horse mentioned something today or maybe yesterday where he straight up said, look, if I was Matthew Nicks, the coach of Adelaide, I'd be pretty disappointed. And that's a really light way of saying you were wronged. And I'm going to say it straight up. It was a goal. It was not called properly. And at the end of the day, the real problem here is the AFL and its slack standards to doing something basic, which is working out if something's a goal or not. We have the technology. So from my perspective, me personally, and I think the bevy generally, we are happy to say that you were wronged. But having said that, it was the one decision amongst many, many, many in a season. And it just so happened to be the very last genuine decision of an umpire throughout an entire season that's drawn it to this moment.
And in the last minute and a half, right? So which carried a lot of weight.
Exactly.
For the Crows.
So it feels really, really frustrating. I can appreciate that. And it does. And I'm not taking that away from you. You are right in your anger and your disappointment in the AFL. But it was one decision across an entire season. There's been many decisions that have disappointed you, no doubt, but none as obvious as this one. So
we've had a couple of lucky ones. We've had a couple of lucky ones this year. Obviously, we had that fiasco with the Roos where they couldn't do simple math. We've got this one right. What pisses me off the most about this is Gil McLachlan and the AFL, coming out saying human error. Just totally throw the ump under the bus, right? Yep. What about all the other mistakes in that game on the night? Yep. That affected the outcome of the game. I mean, Swans fans are going to immediately go to that Goulden, the call where he's the throw, right, that led to Rochelle's goal, right? So that's just one obvious one. We can't. It's hard to dig into it, right? Because we had the rub of the green in the first half, as I think is a point here that you were going to make, and then it sort of swung around, and then I was very nervous. I think I said in the group chat, I was like, I don't like that we're getting all the calls here because you can just see that the umpires are going to go, oh shit, we better give some back to the Crows.
It felt like that for sure, yeah.
Oh my god, and didn't they, right?
Yeah.
So look. The fact that what I love seeing is the umpire, he was right there and he decisively made a decision. And they're panned. They're damned when they do and they're damned when they don't. I mean, go back to the elimination final last year, right, with the Tigers and the Lions, and Dimmer saying, oh, it's either one or the other, But credit to the Crows, right? And I think that they've got a growing culture, and dare I say it's because Nicks was in the Bloods culture, but they held their head high, they copped it on the chin, and they said, look, we've got another game to play next week, and we're coming hard next year. And so how's that for, a bloody good line to put out to the fans? Yeah. We're hurting. Everyone's hurting. And obviously it was a goal. But, we're going to cop it and we're going to move on. And, that could be galvanizing for them. This 1 point loss could be galvanizing for the Crows as early as next year. And that's something to think about.
No one saw them coming the way that they did, the strength of their team, and they've got quite a young backline that is just holding it together beautifully. Like they are we went through it last week and we were like, oh my goodness. And I hadn't been paying attention to the Crows. And then I started looking at the stats and looking at the numbers and looking at their season. I'm like, geez, like this, they're looking very, very good. So yeah, look, if anything's going to galvanize a young team to just being wronged by someone, this is going to do it. You can't do any stronger than this moment. So yeah, of course, finals, you had the potential to play finals. Like the likelihood, you can talk about that, whatever, but you had the potential that's been taken away from you. You are wrong. But my point, and you just mentioned it there as well, and it's a point that we made during the game that was played, the umpiring across the entire game was awful. It was just brutal for both teams. It was just inconsistent and just silly, like throw calls from both teams that were just not there. Holdings that from both teams that weren't there. There was blockings from both teams that weren't there. It was just all over the shop. So either way, mate, I think we got the right this time.
We definitely did, but it's important to say that the Crows would still have needed to beat the red hot West Coast Eagles in Perth to get over the line.
I don't see it happening.
And after a win like that against the Dogs, the very, very strong showing there by the Eagles. The Budgies. Sorry, the Eagles.
Eagles.
I guess we can call them the Eagles again. But yeah, mate, look. So back to your question, first impressions, jubilation, and then Monday morning rolls around. Realization that there's been a mistake and the AFL's thrown a guy under the bus and calling themselves, taking responsibility. I don't know how that's taking responsibility. It's just pointing fingers at someone else, standing him down, right? How's the mental health of this umpire, right?
Mate, one thing I know about his umpire now, there's one person out there in all of Swans world is actually going to know what I'm talking about right now. So I'm actually talking to one bloke, Alan. That umpire is a dead ringer for our old boss. Dead ringer, right? A very good mate of mine is a lovely, lovely guy and been my manager and / boss for a long time, had been until I moved the job. Lovely, lovely guy. He looks just like him. So I've actually been watching him as a goal umpire for a long time and paying attention to him because he looks just like my mate. So exactly the same. And he's always been very good and very decisive and right onto it and calling for arc when he needs to, et cetera, et cetera. And so I saw him call it. And I kid you not, I was like, oh, that guy, cool. What a great view. He must have seen it. So human beings are allowed to make mistakes. He has an entire support network around him, including all these other umpires and ARC themselves, which could have gone and come in and gone, hey, hang on. I don't know what the rules are, but they should have been allowed to, if they weren't allowed to, come and get involved. I'm like, hang on, we didn't see anything there. Anyway.
I think it's the
fact him under
the
bus.
The fact he made a decisive decision. He made a decision. And every round of every game of the round, you'll see an umpire going, "Oh, I'll defer this," and it's totally inconsequential. And you're like, "How did you not see that?" And this bloke, he's right under it, and he just confidently goes, "That's a behind." And so because I thought when I was watching, I was like, "That's a goal. They've bloody got this." And he goes, "No, it's a behind." I was like, "Oh, okay, it's a behind." And then there were heaps of Swans fans commenting on the socials saying, "We were sitting there, we saw it hit the post." And I think Gill was quoted the umpire saying there was a deflection and there was sound. And so he just definitively said it's hit the post. Play on. And so I don't know, it's unbelievable. So I think what it is if the umpire calls a behind, it can't be challenged. Is that right?
I think ARC can't get involved. If it's a goal,
ARC can't get involved.
Sorry, if it's a behind, then they might check if it's a goal or something. But if it's a goal, they don't check it's behind. It's something like, or the other way around. It's something dumb. Either way, we have the technology. They should be looking at every decision that's even remotely close to a 50-50. They should just be checking them.
That's Steve-O's point, right? Is like check every point always and just do it anyway. And if someone's made a mistake, just go, "Oh, sorry, there's been a mistake," and bring the time back and make the necessary adjustments on the scoreboard.
Exactly. What is this, 1997? Are we fucking being charged for bandwidth and internet? Like, surely it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if they're checking every single one. Just check it. Like, it doesn't matter.
Just do it. And like, so what was it? It was like, so we're talking about that error in the Roos game, right? That we played on for minutes and then a call came from the boundary. Right, obviously it's a clerical error, and so they were like, "Oh, you can't have too many," and so they stopped the game. No one knows what's going on. We get the free kick, the goal, we win the game
right in front of goal.
Right, and so it's like, well, hang on, can't you do that for a very important point and moment of the game where it's potentially like a mistake has been made? Nah, you can't because of the process. A human made an error not to refer to the process. There's no problem with the process. It's all fine. It's all working.
Yeah. That bloke is the problem, though, apparently.
My God. How?
So, yeah. Gil, thanks for coming. Enjoy polo for the rest of your life, mate. I think we've seen enough of you just controlling yourself, like you're just washing your hands of this issue. At the end of the day, I know we've been sticking to this point, but I'm happy to just stick to it because I think it's quite important. Just given
it's the talking point of this game, unfortunately,
and it is, and rightly so. If the Adelaide Crows fans are still listening to us right now, I want you to, because I want you to listen to how Swans fans feel about this as well. At the end of the day, what are they going to choose? Either they're always talking about professionalizing the umpires. Oh, we're gonna start paying them more, blah blah blah. We're going to make them accountable. They're still human beings. And what are you going to expect to do? They're still going to make mistakes. We're still going to absolutely blast them on a Monday. And that's not a sustainable way of going about it. We have technology. The technology can make it happen. Let's just go down the path of putting in sensible technology in the sensible places where it makes sense. And then we run with the rest of it. And we've been talking about this for a long time. Every single pundit's been saying for a long time that this is going to cost someone finals. It's going to cost them a game. It's going to cost someone a grand final. And it will if they keep it up. So he's hoping that the new CEO, who I've already forgotten the name of already, is going to come in here and get it done.
It's like Dylan McGurkin. No. It's something like that. It's like basically Gil McLaughlin, but not his hair is not as voluptuous.
Okay.
Or virile or whatever
or
the word
less
is.
fake. Yep.
Yeah. But so I don't know, man. Like if you're making profits, just spend the money on the tech. It must be this old boys club mentality. It's like, oh, we've got a 100-plus-year-old game, and we've got to keep it in the traditional roots of making mistakes because that's part of it. And then you have this and all shit just hits the fan, and everyone just can't handle it. And basically half of Adelaide is revolting. And fair enough. Look, if it were us, we would be melting.
Yep. I'd be walking myself over to AFL headquarters right now with a lighter and I wouldn't. Police, anyone listening from ASIO, I would not do that.
I thought you were going to say like with a little farewell cake and candle.
That's where I was going with it. Yeah, that's where I was going with it.
That's your story and let's stick with it.
Mate, we had some ideas about like what we should do with the post, right? Take it away. What was it? So basically in all the other footy codes, if it hits the post, and in our game, obviously the two goal posts, the two tall ones, if it hits the post and goes in, it's a fucking goal. Just play on. Play the
6
goal.
points. Let's go. Right? If it hits the behind posts and go in, 1 point.
Yep.
Register it. Wave the flag. Let's go.
Yep.
If it hits the posts and goes out, like out of bounds, have a baller. Have a boundary throw in. If it hits the posts and comes back into play, crazy thought, play on.
My God. You mean like they do in all the other sports?
I don't know. It's a novel, unique take on the matter, but Jesus Christ.
And I mean, look, and if you're out there and you're like, no, that's not the way the game has been, what's the other option is to add in all this technology that I personally feel is unnecessary. Like it's genuinely unnecessary. You would really have to bugger it up, like super bugger it, or someone's going to have to be kicking it over the top of these poles that are enormous, by the way, to like even get a 50-50. And if you're doing that, stop doing it, right? Just kick it as high as the goals are. So yeah, like effectively play the posts. The post in, out, bounces out, whatever it is, the posts are part of the game. And just think of them like you would when you're playing footy in your backyard. You hit a post, it bounces out, play on. That's the way it is.
I really think that it should be both. It should be like come up with a simpler set of rules for hitting the posts and going through, like we've just discussed, and getting all the tech that's available, right? But also takes away this idea of being able to throw these umpires under the bus when they've made quote unquote human error. I mean, he didn't make he made a decisive decision.
Yep.
That, if you look at it in slow mo, again, jury's still out. Did it actually hit? I don't know. I mean, obviously the vision is there's certain angles that make it pretty clear that it didn't hit the post, and then there's some where I'm just like, did it?
I don't know. I think it was pretty conclusive that it didn't hit the post.
All right.
But at the same time, I appreciate you going there, but At the same time, you're right. He saw something, he heard something, he caught it the way it was. The reason he didn't go to ARC because he was definitive in what he saw. At the end of the day, he is a human being, right? So humans going to make mistakes. Don't let it come to that. We have the technology. Move along. We've $1 million man or whatever. We can make it happen. We have the technology. So let's just do it.
That's it, mate. That's
all right,
it.
Mate. We've been banging on for a little while. I think we should move on with the game. Thank you so much for everyone for lasting through this blasting, but we've got a couple more to come. So let's get stuck into the game. The good, the bad, and the stats. Noddy, what have you got from the game?
Well, obviously, it's pretty simple. And I said in the first impressions from me, it's the good is the first half and first half of the third quarter, and the bad is the fourth quarter. And if you go through all the stats, it's basically the contest. We lost, I think we were minus 16 the second half, minus 14 in the fourth quarter. We just completely gave up the hunt. And we were tackling, we had tackles. We weren't too far off it. There was a bit of effort in some stoppages, but it was just, there was no with no body on body. We were ferocious in the first half.
Yeah.
We gave him no space. We controlled territory. We broke even as we always do, really, in the clearances. We're not a dominant clearance team, but it was just, and it was funny to hear Lizard after the game or whenever he's interviewed saying, what did Horse say? It was like, keep at it, don't give up, don't let him back in, and they basically did the opposite of that. So it's like a study on the human psyche. It's like when you're ahead and a team is playing for everything, it's almost impossible unless you're just a gun team. You've got 22 Errol Gouldens, although he probably didn't have his best game, but you know what I mean? If you've got a team that's just switched on and can close out, which hasn't been us for a year and a half, probably 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's coming, but I was hopeful that we would still have a crack, and I think it was Healy, the commentator, who I think is a bloody great commentator. I think he's one of the best going around. Obviously ex-Swan, but totally impartial, I think. But anyway, yeah, he's like, the Swans just have to score at least one goal here, and if they can score one, that puts all the pressure back on the Crows, who were kicking the first three in a couple of however many minutes, and then came back. They were inaccurate, right? Yep. So that's that's the good of the bad for us. They were inaccurate, and we rushed a few behinds. Right, and I loved seeing Dawson basically miss 2 goals there when he could have sealed it. He could have done a real Bontempelli there and just sort of gone, hey, guys, remember me? How could we forget? But, I don't know, mate. So the good was, all that tight, that real intent, that hunger, that Bloods footy, the pressure, kicking well in the wet, and then the bad was totally falling away.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, mate.
It's worrying.
It is worrying. And a big part of it I felt was, in watching the game back, is that they are just way fitter. We were really struggling in that fourth quarter. We just couldn't run. All of our tackle numbers, the tackles were really high for both teams, respectively. They were 85 for the Swannies, 81 for Adelaide.
Yeah.
Both teams average around the 60s. So that's a fair amount for both teams to be getting up.
Yeah.
Now, part of the reason for all of that was... For the Swans' perspective, though, from what I could tell, at the beginning, the first half was all because we were putting pressure on them. Every time they touched the ball, especially in our inside 50 and around there, we were tough. We were nasty. We did not let nothing go. We were amazing. It was the most, I think, the most impressive pressure football that we played for the year. And that's saying something, because we played some fantastic games in pressure. But the first half was built off that. And then the second half, it was the opposite. We were tackling because we were last to the ball. We were just trying to keep up. We were just trying to get the ball slowed down, and we just couldn't go with them. And then come the fourth, I think, a bit of a Colombian white tea was involved, because there's no way that they had that much energy still in the fourth, and we could just not go at all.
They certainly were sucking on some pickle juice, weren't they? They seemed very refreshed in the wet, and
pickle juice.
Good on them, and pickle juice, mate. And so that is I think that's what it was, though. They were literally fighting for their season, and they had nothing to lose, and they came out with such intent. And I went through and looked at all of their games this year, and I think Horse mentioned they're 9-2 at home, and I think the numbers are slightly out. They're now 8-4, so they would have have been 9-3 had they won. But that's a pretty good record for a largely developing team at home. And obviously they had gather round and they had 2 showdowns, so they had a couple of extra games. They weren't technically home games, but they were playing at Adelaide Oval a fair bit, which is great. And then they're 2-8 on the road, right? So, you know, they're always going to come home strong. As you guys touched on last week, they're pretty much in form, right, over the last month. They've lost to 2 top 4 teams by a goal or less, right? So, and they're playing at home where they love to play. Yeah, their defence is really challenged, as ours has been through the year, and we can see how important it is to have those key posts intact for the structure. But they did really well, their young backs, right? Worrell, Borlace. Honest to God, if Dwayne Russell said, "Oh my God, look at this guy's shoulders" one more time, my head was going to explode. I was like, this guy, Dwayne Russell. And he just kept summarising the importance of the game. Like every 3 minutes. Like, it's like, we know a lot is on the line here, Dwayne. Shut up.
That, all right. We were talking about that, right? Like at the end of the quality of umpiring, the quality of umpiring has been ordinary, but the quality of commentators has been particularly ordinary in the last couple of years. And they just keep, like, Dwayne Russell can call a good game, but he's just trying to interject with his ideas. No one cares, mate. Just call the game as you see it.
He rehearses little cat. Like, do you hear him say, "Oh, he's Pele and not Rochelle"? It's like, you practice that in front of the mirror, cheeky little monkey, right? Just call the game. Don't practice lines that you've come up with.
It's boring.
But I didn't mind. I also quite like Rue. You know, like I think Rashudo. He's I think he's okay, and I know he's a a rusted on Crows man.
I'm the opposite. Like, my God, there was some times in the game where he was just like, there's like a double negative. So, right. So like, oh yeah, the Crows, they need to step up. But he'd be like, oh, the Swans are doing well because the Crows aren't doing well good. So I was just like, come on, mate. Like, just everything had to angle from a Crows perspective.
He was negging us. He was negging us. He took that from the Chris Scott playbook. It's like, yeah, we didn't play well, but they didn't either.
Yeah, but they didn't either, but they won the game because, we were terrible.
We were shit. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, but it was a wild game. As you can tell, Swans fans, we're still giddy for good reason. But a part of it is because we're through to the finals. So it is what it is. We made it happen by sheer effort. And I'm going to put my hand up and say, after the Port game, I don't even know what it was anymore. So after that game, we sat on this potty and we even said, like, maybe we need to start adjusting our expectations of this team. We were just smashed by injuries. We're like, we don't know when they're going to come back, if they come back strong, right? A lot of young players, we're blooding up at these guys. We're like, maybe this is a year for us to just blood through more and more players and work ourselves through. And we didn't, and we kind of did at the same time as actually getting through. And these players that we started to get back are all coming through at the same time. And it's all happening. So, lot to happen, mate. Lot to happen. Anyway, I'm getting excited. I'm getting ahead of myself, mate. Let's
hang on. I know.
Please,
just
please.
one more thing. I know that you've already said it, but I just want to say it again. Yeah. The Cats didn't make the finals.
That's an interesting point because
I just don't think we spent enough time on that.
That is a good point because it's something that they were absolutely beating us up about earlier in the season.
God.
Remember?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, they're like, look at the Swans. They are terrible. They have the GF yips and they're not going to get up.
Yeah.
And I think when we did our preseason review, we said coming sixth for us is about where we want to be. That's where we see ourselves being. We don't necessarily see ourselves 1, 2, 3, or 4 necessarily. That'd be great. But we saw 6 of where we are, considering we had such a young team. Some guys are probably going to step up, some are going to go down, etc. Injuries, whatever. The season's basically playing out exactly what we said. The only difference was it happened in the second half of the season rather than the first. So we've come back stronger than we figured we would. The first half was very hard and touching and brutal, especially with a few things like the 2 McCardens going out and Rampy going out and everything else and Millsy going out and rah, rah. It's been a tough season, but we're here, and finals is all that matters, right?
Unbelievable. And Steve-O was
in the finals.
Yeah, that's right. Steve-O was the ever gentleman. He was like, "Oh, you know, they're an aging team, and they did really well last year, and I think that he is a lot more class than I do. I was just like, eat it, dirty hot dog cats. I don't know. I was just like, that's kind of what I was happier about. Obviously,
I mean, he wasn't standing at the MCG when that game went down.
That's true.
So there's a reason why we're a little bit more passionate maybe than he is right now. But not to say he's not a passionate fan. He's an insanely passionate Swans fan. And
definitely.
Crazy passionate, but just a little bit more oomph and anger.
He's probably a bit more diplomatic. Bit more diplomatic than we are, mate.
Yeah.
He's got to be. He's living that James Bond life over there in Finland. So
the James Bond Viking. Anyway, we
digress.
All right, favorite moments, mate. I'll give it over to you. What are your favorite moments or missed chances for the game?
Yeah, look, I'm just trying to think. Like, I think the one that stuck out for me that I thought was really cool was Primetime Papley, and that's a Dwayne Russell special. Yeah. That just the soccer off the ground, it was very good, and he was great. He had a lot of those centre bounce clearances, and him going off, that was probably a big part of the bad there, to be honest, because he was our thrust from the middle. But otherwise, Foxy had some great touches there. Yeah, that was it for me, really. Oh, Lizard had a few great runs, didn't he? And I think we're going to touch on them when we do the Bob. But how about you, mate? What were yours?
Yeah, look, I mean, we probably need to move on and get straight stuck into the players of the game, so we can get stuck into the BNF. But I think one that I just point out would be like this really fantastic pressure game. It was Logan putting a bunch of pressure on, got a ground ball get or like got a ball up, and then Francis got a hand of it. Kicked this fantastic kick to Heaney's advantage, and Heaney cut his mark, and then we went on for goal. It was like a really fantastic passage of play, showing a bunch of guys who are, two guys in particular that were new to the team-ish, in particular Francis and Heaney just showing off his skills. And we'll talk about Heaney in just a second because he was magnificent. All right, let's get stuck into the Bob Skilton medal. No, we're not going to get into the Bob Skilton medal. That's the opposite thing when we're doing.
We don't have that clearance level, mate.
We do not. It's that's trademarked by the Swans. We are going to move on to the Bob medal, which is the equivalent of the Bob Skilton medal. We give 3, 2, 1 points out to his best Swans player, and this week, what we're going to give them, mate? We're going to give them.
Wasn't there that it was either on Twitter or something? There was a bakery in Adelaide that baked there was like a bun, like a sweet bun, and it was in the shape of a post, and the ball was touching the post. What do they call it?
I don't know. Yeah, I know which one
you're
talking
what I'm talking
about. It was like an eclair kind of shaped bun. It had a line in the middle for like a post, and it had a little footy that was on the side that wasn't touching the white bit
the
in the middle.
season wrecker or something like there's something classic like that. I was like, that is top
genuine,
shelf.
proper top shelf, self-deprecating humor, and I appreciate it. I'm all for it. So we're gonna get one of those shipped over from Adelaide. 3, 2, 1 points.
The thief's bun. That's right. The thief's bun. Okay. Introducing the thief's bun. If you review this closely, you'll notice the decoration is actually not even close to touching the bun itself. The decoration is a footy, right? A ball. Available now for the cost of your whole season. And Scott Felstead on the Big Swan supporters group posted that one. I thought that was it's obviously there's a lot of hurt in that, but there's also step back that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
Appreciate the humor where it is, and that is 10 out of 10 humor.
So let's get a bunch of thief's buns for the Swans, and they can wash it down with that.
so 3, 2, 1 points. 3 points to Isaac the Heat Heaney. 2 points to Lizard, and 1 point to Warner. Mate, do you want to take it away with the Heat?
Oh, mate, look, he just was on, wasn't he? And he has been for the last month and a half. Yeah. So obviously, as you've noted, since the draw to Geelong, where he got the 2 behinds, Heaney's kicked 3-zip, 1-1, 2-1, 2-zip, 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 3-1. So really contributing. I think he's the second best rated general forward in the comp after Toby the Grub Green. And on this night as well against the Crows, he was huge, mate. 3 goals, 1 behind, 18 touches at 78%, 5 tackles, 5 score involvements, 4 intercepts, and 2 clearances. Thank you very much. And boy, didn't we need him.
I would be saying if this was Heaney like more consistently throughout the year, he's an AA quality player, right? This is AA standard playing. Like he's unbelievable. In the last few weeks in particular, he's been phenomenal, man. So yeah, heating up. The heat is heating up at the right time. Maybe that's why he's called the Heat. Who knows? We'll find out.
Yeah.
Mate, 2 points for the Lizard. And I'll quickly take the Liz. At his 100th game, 21 disposals at 86% of the back line there, 6 rebound 50s, 450 meters gain, which I think was 4th for the Swans, 9 intercepts, which is his personal best, 5 bounces, best on ground, and 13 one-percenters, which is best on ground. Between Lizard and Ollie, if you look at the stat sheet, the two of them had an absolute run of a day. Ollie with 8 rebounds compared to Lizard's 6. Ollie with 467 meters gain over 450 for Lizard. And then 8 intercepts for Ollie with 9 for Lizard. And so basically they had the same stats, but what the difference was those 13 one-percenters. And those 31 percenters were one-on-ones. He was coming off men. He was doing absolutely everything. His defense was phenomenal, mate. What have you got to say about the Lizzie?
Oh, just what you've said, mate. Like there were times in that game when he was the difference between us not getting more goals kicked against us. So he, that spoil that he made, that intercept, he just stepped up at the right time, and obviously is able to keep doing those crazy things that he can do, slithering off the halfback there. But and there's not a game that doesn't happen where he's not like crunched over in pain. Like I think it was whatever quarter it was just like, oh shit, here we go.
Yeah, and Fogarty absolutely drilled him.
Yeah, and he's a big lad, right, Fog. So, yeah, no, I thought Liz was great in his 100th. That was really, really a really good showing by him, and yeah, like the Heat, we really needed that showing from him, to be honest. But yeah, no, it was pleasing.
Beautiful. He is a beautiful player. We locked him in for a long time. He's a Sydney boy, and it's all happening, mate. 1 point to Warner. Do you want to take it away, Warner?
Yeah, mate. I affectionately refer to him as the Powerball because I always play one when I play Powerball because I've got this fantasy that I'll win 100 million and I'll buy him a Ferrari just because he's a legend and he deserves it. But he had 25 touches, which was second for the Swans after Errol, who was 31 at 30% for Errol. But anyway, we're talking about Chad. 10 contested possessions from the 25. He had 7 inside 50s, 6 clearances, which was best for Swans and third on ground. 2 centre clearances, 5 score involvements, second after Logan on 7. So didn't kick a goal. I think he got it behind, but he was looking dangerous. And look, we ummed and ahed about this 1 point position, but we decided to go with Chad just because there were moments there when he was breaking. It looked like he was going to break it open, and he was good for us defensively. And probably if he'd gotten a goal or 2, then he might have pushed higher up in the points. But how did you see his game, mate?
Yeah, mate. I think it was one of those ones where, like, when Errol was, of course, doing his thing, but just Chad was just churning that inside. So he's really taken on the role of being that offensive mid, right? So he's and he's just finding more and more space, and he's just being clever about it, and he's finding time, I think, when to go and when to not. He's finding time when to like pass it off and when he needs to run, and he's getting those peripherals. He's starting to get those eyes in the back of his head, so he's starting to get a feel for the game and knowing when he needs to sprint off. And he's been, the league knows about him, right? The league knows what he's like and what he's about, so they're paying attention to him now. He kind of got away with a bit last year, so he's just had to change up. And I think the first half he wasn't quite there, and the second half he's just slowly turning it on and becoming a much more mature player. So
he had those 3-4 weeks out with the calf, and
that's right,
and obviously had warmed up, and he's been a big part of the 6 on the trot. So obviously he's had games where he's sort of been standout, but there's been games where he's just sort of almost played a role, but that's off the back of recovering. So, yeah, look, it's pleasing. It's really pleasing to see him also play that solid game, and I love more and more the interaction between him and Errol. Like when they do something sick, they've got their little their little cool little hand, the high fives, show me the money type stuff. It's you can see that they're good mates, and that was. Yeah, no, it was good. It was Chad. He was at it. Powerball. Love him.
As it turns out, Chad and Errol and Logan are like basically best mates.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't ask for more from three close kids who are going to play with each other for a long time. That's just nuts, right? Like, we are gifted. Mate, let's get stuck into a few honorable mentions. Typically, when it comes to a win, we have a number of honorable mentions that made that happen. But this week, there's not too many, and I think that's kind of a bit telling. Mate, do you want to take away with one of yours?
Yeah, mate, I'll take Ginger Prince. And
my Ginger Prince.
Do you want to take Ginger Prince?
No, of course, please. I like to share the love of the Ginger Prince, please.
Thanks. And I'll take Millsy. So yeah, obviously Ginger Prince, the much maligned Ginger Prince, Aaron Francis, who came in and did everything. He played forward, he played ruck, he played defence, but he got his first goal as a Swan, which is a real feel-good moment. Feel-good moment in a controversially charged game. But no, he gave a lot of support, a lot of really good support and pressure when he did go forward. He was obviously, he came in as Buller was a late out. Did we ever find out what happened there? Was it illness or... I don't think he played in the VFL, but...
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel maybe... homesickness. I think it was just a reason to get him in, basically, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think isn't Francis from SA as well originally? I think.
Yeah, I think. Country SA. Yep.
Is he? I'll tell you who would know this. Dwayne Russell. He'd give you their birthstone.
No, he won't. He would only know if the guy had amazing shoulders. That's about as far
That's right. I'm not going to talk about you unless your shoulders look like that bloke.
Unless you're a swimmer. Yeah. Butterfly.
So he was good. He did that sort of, he sort of played that Amadi role where, Amadi / McLean / Sammy Reid, where he's just getting up and contesting and, getting the ball to ground. And he was probably beaten a couple of times once it did go to ground. But, I think in terms of what he had to do, what the role he had to play, he played it pretty well and showed some good aggression. So it was pleasing. He's come in, he's sort of held his spot, although he came back in on a technicality. But, He's doing what he needs to do to provide some depth and play that role for us. So it was pleasing.
What I like to see is that he comes in as a backman, to support Tommy Mack, and actually had a really good game. If you listen back to the podcast last week, we mentioned that between Francis and T Mac, they basically had the same statistical game. I mean, granted, T Mac was against a better opponent, of course, because of course it's T Mac, but nonetheless, they both had really good games together. And then the next week, mate, we haven't got a space for you in the back, but hey, do you want to pop up the forward and just have a go at this forward line? And then he played a role in the forward line. So this is that swing role that we really needed. With McLean being too good to just bother with these key positions and him just being able to run around the ground and do a whole bunch of funky stuff. Having Francis to lock down one of those spots is really, really good. And so I'm a big fan of the big man, the big Ginger Prince.
And obviously Melican was that other one that's sort of hovering. He's returned from his injury, and he did play in the VFL. I think we got whacked by Werribee by 50. So, just on Millsy, obviously, he held Dawson to a very quiet game until 3/4 time, and then Dawson sort of just let loose in that last quarter. And as we've already touched on, almost very nearly won it for them with a few huge plays, but not quite. But yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he basically... Have you? Yeah, okay. Well,
So 19 touches for Dawson, where he normally averages about 29. And 12 kicks for Dawson, which he normally averages to 17. So, he definitely held him down a little bit. The clearances were about right, about normal, which is a bit disappointing because you expect someone with a tag to don't quite get those clearances out. But that also comes into a fact that, that last quarter, as you said, he kind of got off the chain a little bit with Millsy going around back. So, yeah.
I mean, they all kind of did, didn't they? They were feral that quarter, weren't they? They wanted it. As we said, they were on something. They were high on life. But how about you, mate? Any HMs from your side?
Look, I've already talked about Ollie. I think Ollie had an incredible game. He's really unlucky not to get a point. But Wixie was fantastic, and as we actually found out,
he was good.
Currently first in the whole league for average tackles inside 50. So
my boy
Wixie, everyone was right on him last year. Horse protected him and said he is within our top 6 forwards all day, every day. You can take that to the bank with whatever horse, and as it turns out, that's true as hell. And then just really quickly, McLean and Hickey, massive factors, especially in the air, contested marks, and even in the contest, they were so clean with their handballs. They were, for big men, you shouldn't be that agile and that clean. And look, and they can kick. And I think they were a massive part as to why we managed to keep them down to only 5 contested marks for the whole game. Those two boys did an enormous number and a really underrated role to keep that ball going to ground, especially in the wet, which kept it contested for us, which has worked itself out.
I mean, we like Riley O'Brien obviously got up and we were minus 32 in the hit-outs. But as we've discussed many times on the potty, that doesn't really matter. It's the work afterwards, and the boys were good at that. Obviously, Hickey had the behind, but there was a patch of play. I think it was in the third quarter, maybe, where everyone on the group chat was just like, "Oh, Hickey looking solid, really clean." Really, and we weren't worried that every time he came up, we didn't think he was going to get back up again. Also, when he came to ground, he looked pretty robust this game, which is pleasing. Obviously, leading into the serious end of the season. So, yes, I was going to say something on Wicks, but I've forgotten it. So I'm glad I said that. Not.
Well, so I kept talking when you mentioned something about Wixie, so it might have been my fault.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. So the only thing I would say about Wixie, and this is kind of like you take the good with the bad. He some of his like niggle is he's really got to rein that in, because there's been a few, especially in this game against the Crows, there are a few times when we get a free kick, and then he'd sort of get up in the grill of the opposing team, and you just think, oh, if he pushes it too hard, too far, it's going to be a reversed thing. It's going to cost us big in a game, and so you don't want to go, hey, rein it in and stop that, because that's part of his game, and you love seeing it, right? And look, if you're Toby Green, you can like knee a guy to the throat and get away with it, so that's all good. But if it's Wixie, Slick Wicks, thanks Dwayne. Let's just trademark all these nicknames that Dwayne Russell's come up with. But like that's the only thing I'll say. Like, I love that he plays on the edge, but I just want him to watch it, especially coming into finals, because you just don't want that moment where you go, oh, mate.
And he has done that. We've mentioned it on the potty a couple of times, where he's actually kind of given away a 50 for absolutely no reason. Like, basically come in after, knock the guy over to show him who's boss at the time, and then end up giving a 50 away.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he had those 2 weeks off, didn't he, with the elbow to Leicester, I think, against the Lions. And that's not even what I'm talking about. That was sort of in a play. It's more like the like play has stopped. We're going back for a set shot on goal, and he's just like basically, I don't know, up in someone's face saying. I'm
sure the kids have a word for it, but it's like kind of showboating or something, like that kind of thing, or like just getting up in their grill. Is that a thing?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that's
grilling.
That's grilling. Yeah, that's it from me, mate.
Beauty. All right, look, let's get stuck into the post game in that case. All right, look. Ladder implications, we are coming 7th with about 111, I think, percentage, right? So, yes.
Yep.
And we are locked into the top 8 now, with the Bulldogs somehow losing to the Budgies / the West Coast Eagles. And we are now just fighting for position on the ladder, most likely 6, 7, or 8, and we'll get to that in a second. So... If we win and the Saints lose, we go to 6th place, depending on what goes on. If we lose and the GWS win, we may go into 8th. But the best we could probably hope for is 6th. The worst we can get is 8th. The reason we're not suggesting we can get into 5th, despite the points being the same, is that the percentage that Carlton have is significantly better than ours. So I do not see us winning by the 250 or whatever it's going to take to get up there. So, especially against the Ds. If it was the Bombers or West Coast, different question. But right now, it's not likely going to happen. So
not impossible, but it's
impossible.
Unlikely.
Unlikely. Not possible, unprobable. So, improbable. That's a word. Mate, so there is and us in the bevy do have a vested interest in where we land with the ladder and what that means to when the game is played. There is a person in the bevy, myself, who has recently got himself engaged and organised an engagement party for some reason on first week of the finals, and it's on a Saturday, and there's 2 games being played on a Saturday potentially, and so we are and there's three of the bevy coming to this damn engagement party, and we are desperate that we get the Thursday or Friday game. Desperate, mate. Take it away.
You're a gentleman in trouble. No, it's so
If I don't piss off my missus, I'm pissing off my mates. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I think I asked you. I was like, "What's the policy on you leaving your own engagement party?" It just wouldn't. It'd go down like a lead balloon. And so it should. Obviously, what this is going to come down to is all these iterations we're just talking about. And we've looked at the schedule, the broadcast schedule from last year, and we've assumed that they may follow suit. Obviously, there's that week off between finals still. And then I think we assume they're going to kick off with it. So it was Thursday, the Thursday night game, Friday night game, Saturday Arvo, and a Saturday night game. So they didn't play Saturday Arvo, Sunday Arvo. They played basically the 3 night games and the 1 Arvo game. And it was, what do we say? I wrote this out. I just couldn't wrap it around my head. 6th versus 7th played on Thursday night. 1st and 4th they played on Saturday Arvo, I believe. Hang on, I'm looking at notes from this year, and that's where I'm making my predictions. I'll have to go back to the chat, mate. Have you got it there?
No.
It's basically...
Hang on. We're crunching numbers on the fly here,
This
kids.
is highly sophisticated podcasting. 6th and 7th played... 6th and 7th played on the Thursday night. 2nd and 3rd played on the Friday night. 1st and 4th played on Saturday Arvo, and 5th versus 8th played on Saturday night. So... we would like to finish 6th, personally, because then that way we get an SCG game on hopefully. And again, this is huge assumptions. Signets and Swanlings don't quote us, but we're hoping that it follows suit. We're personally hoping for these.
There's a personal invested interest in this, so you can appreciate. Do not buy tickets on the back of this. We're just saying that this was what we know from last year. Is what we're running with.
Yeah. If we're 6th, we play. We have a game at the SCG, right? And then if we're 7th, we are probably
playing in Melbourne for sure.
Playing in Melbourne on the Saturday, probably. And the 8th and 8, right? So depending if it's the Saints or Carlton, if the latter stays about the same, we think 1st to 4th is probably going to stay the same, and then we think obviously 5th to 8th might, but the Dogs could still sneak in, and it would take a mighty miracle for the Bombers too, but it's not impossible. There's still a few things to play out, but what the good thing is we will not miss out on finals, right? We're a lock.
We're a lock for finals. Just a matter of where we play it. Yeah. So we're hoping for a 6 versus 7 on a Thursday night. That will be the best thing ever at the SCG. And the SCG on a Thursday night normally gets a fantastic crowd. I think our largest crowd there is an elimination final against Essendon 2017. 40-something thousand people from memory. 47, I think.
Yep.
So
the prelim was pretty close last year as well, but there was a shitload of Magpies in the crowd. I think they stole ticket. They beat up like Swans fans to get tickets, I think. But
it wasn't the Pies. It was the AFL that beat up the Swans fans.
Gill's fault again. That's how he hurt his arm. But mate. So obviously we'd love to have a home elimination final. Because I think the Saints at Marvel would be tricky, and then obviously the Blues at the MCG would also be tricky.
Yep.
But also, I think we'd hate to play the Giants away, right? Because we beat them it was pretty close, right?
And we had to kick 11 straight to make it happen.
Yeah. So there's that as well. So...
Look, I think if all the teams that I want to play in that ladder, I don't know why I'm talking about this. It's irrelevant. I don't know why I'm jinxing it, but I would like to play the Saints. I genuinely think the Saints, from a tactical perspective, can be beaten. They have that run and gun. You can shut that down. We have had a little bit of success with doing that before. So I would rather play them than a hard contested game against, say, Carlton, as an example. Or even GWS for that matter. So
I just feel like they'll whack us in the clearances, probably Carlton. But
for sure.
But you never know. We're getting slightly ahead of ourselves. I mean, obviously we've got to beat. We'd like to beat We'd like to beat Melbourne, right? We want to beat Melbourne.
Everyone wants to beat Melbourne.
Everyone wants to win. Yeah. We want to win. Bloods go out to always.
Win. Yep. So we got to win first in order to talk about this. If we don't win, then effectively the Bulldogs can come up. If the Giants win, then they overlap us into 7th place and we go down 8th. So the best we can hope for is really 6th, and we come last in 8th. That's the other option. So either way, we're playing finals. We want to play home final. That's what life is all about. Mate, as we get stuck into it then, MRO and injuries. Let's quickly talk about the injuries. Let's talk about Papley, and then I'll go into my rant about T-Mac. Papley, he put on the old black puffer jacket, the old North Face, and ended up having to sit out the last quarter with Clarkey coming in. Well, Clarkey did a pretty good job, actually, with a hamstring tightness. Now, the word is that it wasn't serious, and I feel that they were kind of putting him on cotton wool. Do you have any read on this? What's your opinion?
Yeah, no read other than what I've heard, obviously, in the post-game press conference, and haven't heard anything today. But yeah, that other than it was hamstring related, like a bit tight, and I think that if he were fit, they would have kept him on because, as I mentioned earlier, he was sort of a bit of the difference, point of difference there, as he has been over the last month, certainly in the centre clearances there, but. Yeah, so that makes me think it was significant enough to not play him. So whether or not, given that we're a lock in finals, well, I mean, he'll have to prove his fitness either way before it's a strategic call. But yeah, so the others there, as you've listed, are Marty and Juzzy's still yet to come back in. So yeah, they're all pretty important players for us, and players that you'd probably want to be playing before that week off, before the finals, if they were fit. But if they are touch and go, then that gives us 2 weeks. Well, that gives those players 2 weeks to come good again.
Rest up.
Yeah, it's just whether or not the lack of run in the legs is going to have a negative effect or not. But yeah, the other thing is Lloydie looked real proppy at one point, but he obviously played out the game. But do we find out what that ankle was? It okay.
Yeah, I think he just got banged up a bit, but it seemed like he played out the rest of the game. I didn't see him come off for strapping or nothing. So maybe he just got a little bit of a twister in the game and ran it off. I don't know.
Yep. No, that's good. Because he's obviously very important to the structure as well. Yeah. All right, mate.
Tommy Mac.
Okay. You've got this, mate. You've got the conch.
Okay, ready? The conch. I don't know what that is.
It's a shell.
It's a
that means
old
you can
ship.
talk. It's from Lord of the Flies.
Yes, I do know that.
Yeah,
yes, that's right. You hold the conch.
We listen to you. Yeah,
that's actually a good book. Right, so. The Bevy has an opinion on Tommy Mac. We've come together. We've analysed this. We had the war room and we discussed it thoroughly. And this is what we're coming through with. The ball was rolling hard and straight into the forward pocket, into Adelaide's forward pocket, our back pocket. And with McAdams, he was running in at full pitch, straight line. And as you expected to do, he was a 2-on-1 against Rampy and Tommy McCartan. Tommy McCartan was coming sideways. The ball was rolling through. If the ball had bounced straight up, as you'd imagine it would do, considering it was coming through with some speed, it would have gone straight up, and then both McCartan and McAdams would have both had a genuine 50-50 bang-on play to get their hands on it, right? That's what happened. That's what would have happened. That's absolutely what would have happened. But as the contest then happened, the ball bounced to the right and low, just a bad bounce, went low. At that point, McAdams, he didn't have a play out of it, so he was still going straight. Then T-Mac didn't have a play out of it because it was too far away from him. It was too low and too far away from him, so he didn't have a play. And then the bang-bang collision happened. It was a collision. It was not a bump. A bump is bad phrasing. The bump suggests that there was some intention to hit McAdams, and there wasn't. It was purely self-preservation, AFL standard stuff. This is what you expect. So McAdams did not go in to HIA protocols, and he played on the rest of the game. The fact that McAdam had a depressed cheekbone, which we found out after the fact.
Was it a depressed cheekbone, or was he just depressed because they lost? Like, come on. I want to see an x-ray of that fucking cheekbone.
Okay.
Sorry, back to you.
No, well, you're right. It's a good point. Where's the evidence, right? Show me the evidence. Show me the evidence that it was a point also. But anyway, Yeah. So he's got a depressed cheekbone, right? It's unfortunate, but it's not, and I think you can agree with this, it's not because Tommy was careless. It was purely a bang play, unintentional. It happened. So challenging the 2-week suspension is the right move. There's no doubt about that. No one doubts it. And really, we need to get Tommy Mack for at least that first week of finals. Then that's really what we're working with here. So he gets a week for a bit of careless and medium, whatever. I don't know how it all works. I've forgotten. I don't care. We just need him to just get that 1 week back. So 1 week off would be more fair. And look, between you and me, mate, and you can tell me how you feel. You are the king of conspiracy, the harbinger of half truths. We cannot expect a fair rob here, right? So the self-preservation is what the AFL is going to do. They're going to have to make a situation here because there's no way they're going to not make a big deal out of this, considering that, at the end of the day, they lost the game for the Crows. What do you think? You take it away. I pass it to you.
Oh, look.
You can have the conch.
No, okay. So I, as part of the discussion that took place on the chat, I agree with everything you just said. And I think the club has also come out with the announcement saying they're going to fight it and they believe it to be a genuine footy accident. And I think that is a good line to take, and I think that that's fair given the circumstances. And should he get a week, then we run with a different structure for the D's game, recovery week, and then he's back for the finals. If he gets 2 weeks for this, then this is a little bit of payback, I think, from Gil McLachlan and those dipshits, right? Or the pressure that he's feeling from his home state. So because. Yeah, obviously, there weren't too many other MORable offences in the game. So, and because there's a world of pain out there in the city of churches away from the port, then, we've got to hurt the Swans somehow. And Tommy Mack is, he's one of our best players, really. And he's bounced back really well from his own issues this year, Paddy's issues aside. So... It would be a huge out for us. And so it depends on how prickly they're going to fight this, I think. And you get the feeling, and this is where the tinfoil hat comes on, that there's a little bit of Adelaide Crow's thief bun in this, I think. So... There's a little bit of sweet and savoury
savoury bunnage happening.
Yes, a little bit of sugar afoot. But, so look, well, Campbell got a week for that non-hit on Whitfield. They chose not to fight that. I think given the circumstances and the belief that it was a genuine footy accident, and the importance really of Tommy Mack for us and our structure, we've got to go all in. So I'm hopeful, but I wouldn't put it, and this is not to jinx us, but I just think that there's a little bit of funny buggers, running around here at play. Yep. It could be. Yep. And we'll know when we find the outcome.
Yep. I'm glad they're fighting it. It deserves to be fought. Even if it wasn't finals time, I'm just like, that was a bang play. What are you going to do? Like, Tommy Mack had no chances there. But, yeah, like you said, he's so important to our structure, to the team generally. We just got to do what we got to do to make him come back. So
every time you say bang play, I think of a go-go dancer from the 60s. I don't know why. It's like a bang play. So that's like when it's
that's my history.
It's just bang. Like when you say bang, it's like it's a instantaneous contact sort of thing, or
it's like that happened. There was no chance to think. There's no chance to change momentum, move, or even consider anything.
Yep.
He went for the ball. The ball wasn't there. He's gone, oh bugger, and then he's braced for impact. Yeah. And he just so happened to have collected the bloke's cheek. That's all.
Yeah. And also McAdams, there was a fair bit of milk in that. Like he got the blender out and chucked a little bit of ice cream in it.
He's got a depressed cheekbone apparently.
He started pulsing. He started playing for a bit of milkshake here. I'm working through that analogy there myself. It was a bang comment.
Like yeah. Vanilla or chocolate?
Oh, mate. But look. So, show me the X-ray. That's all I want to know.
Okay. So we're asking for an X-ray. No doubt it'll be available to the court of AFL terrible opinions, but we're not going to be able to see it. So that's just the bullshit that goes on.
Yep.
Well, look, on that, the game is big. Is it a big game? Okay, here's my genuine question. Do we care?
So I think from what we've been building, 6 on the trot, and Melbourne coming in 4th in their last 5. They smashed us by 50 in round 3 when we were still a full strength team, and we had 2 good wins to start the year. I think that I think that what Horse has shown us is that the Bloods never go out there to do anything other than compete and win. Best team on the field every week to get to do everything they can to get the job done. So I think that we go out there to win. It's obviously last home game of the year. I think you're going to mention some of the cool stuff that's happening in terms of farewells. So I think we've got everything to play for, and I think we go out there and we give our all, basically. Yep.
I think that's fair. Look, I think doesn't matter what game it is, doesn't matter what part of the season, you don't want to lose a game. You're there to win. And we don't really have the depth. It's not like we can rest a couple of players and be like, okay, let's just throw in these half-timers to just get us through the game and still be somewhat competitive. We don't have that depth. That's the truth of it. We've been talking about it all season. So,
who is it? It's Laddams, right? Is really the only kind of, but he's been
Melican.
Melly comes in. Yeah, that's true. Melly's before him, isn't he? Yeah, Melly. So if T-Mac is out, then Melly will come in. Francis will probably hold.
That's literally it. That's literally it for AFL standard stuff we've got going on right now.
In terms of keys,
yeah, for sure. Even the inside, like Sheldrick's out for the year, so there's not really anyone else to bring in the inside either.
Matty Roberts can come in and play
true. Matty Roberts,
role.
of course. Yeah, that's a good shout.
Matty
Roberts. I'd actually love to have Matty Roberts in for someone.
Dill. We didn't talk about Dill, but he held his spot, and
I think he holds. Yeah.
Look, he did enough. He did enough. He threw his body around. So that's all. That's all I ever want from Dill Stevens, and who
still
knows?
Shirked a few, but that's. I think it's just something. He was definitely better. There's no doubt about it. He was shirking less. That's for sure. So. Well, mate, there's a couple of things going on for the game for next week as well. Rowie, and we've been talking about it, and I want to point out that the Bevy picked this up in round 10. No one else in AFL media, full stop, has picked this up. It's only the Bevy. Rowie is on his way to most tackles by a Swan for a season. We picked this up in round 10 where we noticed averages were just blowing up. He's on 168 with the record for Swans being 170. That's currently held by Parker and Kirky. So he only needs 3 more to overtake that number. He's probably got at least 2 games to run with, you'd imagine, outside of injury. So it's almost a lock for Rowie, not foreseeing some just insane circumstances. So if you see his 3rd tackle at the SCG this week, scream out, because he has just taken over a record that is held and been held away by some incredible, tough men in the game. So big raps out to Rowie. The other stat that's really interesting is Errol is only 6 inside 50s away from equaling the record with Kieran Jack.
Is that in one season? Yeah,
that's right, in one season. So so Errol, again, 6 more inside 50s. You'd imagine just the rate that he's been going out with, about 6, just over 6 average. He might even hit it this week, so you never know.
He'd have to be up there for meters gained, surely.
I think meters gained is a bit of a stat that's not been tracked until somewhat recently.
Yeah, okay.
So it's a bit tricky for us. And we actually had the same conversation. I can't remember what we were talking about before. Maybe tackles inside 50 wasn't tracked as well for a while. So yeah, there's a few stats that are kind of a bit dodged, considering that they've been only tracked in the modern era. So all the names you'll see, if you go jump on all the statistics, they're all like modern guys. They've probably been tracking since like the 2000s, but nonetheless, there's stats to be broken. There's still big players like Kieran Jack, but Parker and Kirky to overtake. So yeah, big stuff going on.
Just real quickly on the Ds. So we're looking at their team there from their win last week against the Hawks. Obviously, I think it's Bailey Fritsch. His season has ended. So they've been running with this sort of makeshift forward line. Brodie Grundy still can't Can't win a meet.
They don't have a forward line, and Grundy. I'm going to call him Grundy. Grundy can't get himself into the game still. Like, that's saying something.
So that's a whole conversation topic there in terms of possible trade acquisition. But so look, I don't know. They're obviously they're known for their D. Lever and May. They've got the wingers, Hunter and Langdon. They got that really good midfield unit. Obviously Clary's come back in. Track's there. Viney's there. Gorn is just killing it again. So they're definitely it's gonna be tough. But I hope we can put on a show. That's all I ask for.
Yeah, especially for what's going to be Buddy's farewell, right?
So yeah.
The word is Buddy's coming to the SCG for probably the last time in his entire career, because in his life, because he's a bit of a hermit. He's going to disappear into the Gold Coast, never be seen again. Outside of a couple of nice cafes. So Buddy's farewell is going to take place this week, and the plan is, in having a chat, and it's actually brought up by a fella on Facebook, and I just for the life of me can't find his original post. I'm really sorry to the gentleman that wrote this initially, and I apologize. I will make it up to you. But he was suggesting at the 23rd minute of the first quarter, let's get up and celebrate. True Bloods boys are going to be doing the same thing. They're going to mention the same thing on their potty. We're doing the same thing here. So let's make sure everyone hears the word. Let everyone know at the stadium. Tell everyone at the pub beforehand, which we'll talk about in a second. 23rd minute of the first quarter. Start cheering for Buddy. Buddy. Let's get it going, mate.
Awesome. Is Paddy doing a thing there as well? Like, is
there
like a lap of honor or something?
I presume so, but we haven't heard from that yet. But I would love, that's got to happen, right? That's got to happen. We need to give him the genuine sign off. And I think I asked this of Steve-O, but from your opinion, as far as I'm concerned, he's a blood for life, right?
Yeah. God, I mean, red, black, and white, or red, white, and black just looks weird on Paddy. Like, it's just red and white for me. Yeah.
Yep. Beauty. Awesome.
And the brother connection and just that dream run of 2022, apart from the last day in September, obviously. But mate, it's just one of those things. But we were blessed really to have him for the Swans, and it was a pretty shrewd pick up, really. But he held his end of the bargain, didn't he? And formed that formidable 1-2 combo with his younger brother. But it's so. I mean, he's 39, right? He's read Heath Grundy's old number. So do we? We're not going to get to 39, and we're going to have a few claps in the 3rd minute and the 9th minute. It just gets administratively, it gets a little tricky, doesn't it?
There's a lot of stuff like that. I kind of feel with general AFL fans, we don't want to confuse it too much. We want to just keep it. But I think at halftime, I think everyone's just going to go absolutely ballistic if they see him. I genuinely think so. I think everyone really feels him in their heart. There's not a single Swans fan out there that isn't feeling close to the whole situation, and just remember, like last year, we were talking about this how many times, like the way that he was, it's just like, I know it's fantastic playing with my brother, and he's almost crying as he's saying all these things.
Oh, mate.
And we're at home just like going, come, stop it.
Oh, no, he's like, call my brother. It's like a Google ad. Yeah, it's just, you can't help but cry. But the other thing is, I was just one last request of Buddy. Maybe you can just sit a little close to the fence, the boundary at some point, and just heckle the shit out of Stephen May. Just because no one gets in May's grill like Buddy, and also May, the battles that they've had over the years, recent years have been epic, and it'd be great to have seen them at it one more time, but obviously weren't to be. But and wouldn't that be funny if he's just a regular Joe sitting in row 2, just giving him hell.
Yeah, just he has a seat reserved on either side and just walks from one side to the other side. It's Buddy. He can walk straight down the middle if he wants, and he cares. Security's not going to do anything, and he just start heckling the guy. Yeah, that's a just good shout. Mate.
You call that a spoil? That's not a spoil.
Pick up your game, mate.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Love it. All right. Well, mate, the other thing we have to say is that we're going to be catching up with everyone at the Clock Hotel at Surrey Hills for pre-game beers. True Bloods are going to be there as well. We're going to be there. So come and say hello to everyone. Should be a great shout. All Swans fans in one venue before we
We're actually going to a decent actual pub
rather than what's the other place called?
Never even heard of it.
Oh, it's a
Carrington.
mess of a place. Why bother? Anyway, the Clock is a half decent pub, so that's a pretty good shout.
Well,
so,
that's where we met. That's where we caught up with Isaac and all those boys when they were having their the doozy promotions. So it's a pub that you regularly go to before and after Swans games in Sydney. If you're listening as someone who is not from Sydney or New South Wales, so it's a good shout, and sounds good, mate. Let's make it happen.
To anyone in Sydney, we do not go to the Carrington for watching games, and to anyone in Melbourne, we absolutely do not go to the Carrington for games, so don't bother. Anyway, let's just move on with that. The other cool thing that's going on, and we haven't really been pushing this really hard because the season's just been absolutely mental, and I very much apologise for this, but the AFLW season starts next week. On the off week between finals, that's when the AFLW season starts. I am so interested about the season. It's going to be wicked. The Bevy is going to commit to an entire AFL season podcast. We are going to be there throughout the whole thing, doing weekly podcasts. It's going to be hilarious because it's been the longest season of all life and we're extending it, but it's damn worth it. We are organized. We're going to get this one done. If you don't have your memberships, get your damn memberships. Call your mates, get their memberships, because I tell you what, North Sydney Oval last year for that first game was absolutely bonkers, and you're going to want to make sure that you're guaranteed a ticket to all the games because it's going to be a great shout. And just on the quiet, I think the Swans are going to be pretty competitive, so let's figure that out.
Definitely. Did I see Montana Ham is out for
she is injured foot for a chunk of the season.
God damn. Anyway, we'll dig into that in due course.
That's right. Well, look, it's been a long one. I appreciate you being here. This brings us to the end of the episode. So, of course, we'll see you in the O'Reilly stand on Sunday. But until then, up the Bloods and can you Swannies? That was really good. I went on for a while, but it's